it's my job leading up to the show to make sure that everything that we're spending on the show, when it comes to personnel, when it comes to production, when it comes to transportation, flights, hotels, everything that's baked in, I have to make sure that those numbers fall within a healthy range for my artist to be profitable, if that's the goal. You know, not every time, though, is a show profitable, or is it meant to be?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. I'm so excited to share this week's episode with you because it is with not only one of the dopest tour managers in the electronic music industry, but just one of the dopest people in the music industry in general. This is hands down one of my favorite humans. Now, he's the tour manager for huge artists like NGHTMRE, Peekaboo, Dimension. He's been in the game for a long time, working with a lot of incredible artists. And, you know, we've all been to these shows that just have these huge, insane productions. It's probably why we fell in love with electronic music in the first place. But what does it actually take to pull that off? Who are the people that are behind the scenes that are actually making these shows happen? That's what we really dig into. It's going to be an incredible look behind the curtain to see what does it actually take to pull these shows off. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with my good friend, Aren Goldberg. My man, Aren, welcome to the show, bro. I am so pumped to catch up with you because you are literally one of my favorite people in the fucking music industry. You're just such a rock solid human. And it's been a while since we've really caught up. And you have just been doing such great things. I mean, I've known you for like probably a fucking decade, and to just see
I think so.
how much you've grown and what you're doing now. Like, we got a lot to catch up on and a lot of cool stuff to share with everybody. So thank you so much for being here, bro.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to properly catch up. You know, I'm really stoked to be a part of this. I've always really appreciated our friendship and all the cool things we've done over as you said, the past decade. It's wild to think that it's been a full decade now.
I mean, it's probably been about that long. I mean, we knew each other from back in the day when I was working at Icon Collective Music Production School in LA. You were working with the White Rabbit Group crew that was throwing parties in Orange County.
Yep.
And now you're out like touring the world as a tour manager with some of the biggest artists in the fucking world. So that's pretty rad. I'd love to hear like just a little bit about your story. You know, you came from being a promoter, working on like throwing shows. How did you end up actually going out on the road with artists and becoming a tour manager? How did that happen?
Man, it's crazy. It's kind of two-pronged. So granted, you know, we did meet through the Yoast and the White Rabbit Group, you know, back in the day. I, in tandem, also was in school. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I had a full load of classes, but also on top of that, it was nuts. I don't know how I did it, and I guess that kind of trickles down into what I'm doing now. It's like I've always got my hands in so many things. It never changed. It was always that way. But on top of those two things, I had a really incredible internship / it kind of evolved into a bigger role with this record label and clothing brand called Twonk that I was a part of through.
Oh yeah, Brills.
With Brills, yeah, Brills, who is now Ellis Dream. Is also an incredible project in that self. But thanks to Sammy Brills and another incredible mentor that I've had over many years named Oz. You know, us three, we built something very special, and I was very very thankful to be a part of it from a young age. Pretty much right out of high school, I threw myself out there. I took a shot in the dark and didn't really know what I was asking for, so to speak, but they kind of taught me the ropes of how the music business was, like really early on. So I got my kind of kick with merchandise really early on, and that's actually how I got connected really close with White Rabbit and the Yoast, just from my involvement through that. A lot of the artists they were booking actually happened to go to Icon, and a lot of the people who went to Icon ended up playing at the Yoast through White Rabbit Group, and then it was just kind of this big web of connection. And sure enough, the pieces connected, and eventually I wanted to branch out for merch, and I kind of just let the wind take me to where I needed to go. I didn't really know what the job tour manager was at first. I'd say my first real opportunity came around 2014, doing some local stuff. I had another amazing mentor named Corey Enemy, who was part of the Twonk group for quite some time, but Corey gave me some of my very first opportunities back then, and I can't thank him enough for that. and the floodgates open from there. So it's been quite a stint.
Yeah, yeah. I want to pick one piece out of that story where you said you just threw yourself out there in terms of getting connected, because I'm a big fan of shooting your shot. And it sounds like that was one of those moments of just fucking shooting your shot and getting the opportunity. Tell me a little bit more about that moment, because I think it's so important and such a big part of like most people's stories that I talk to.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I had no idea at all that I'd be in music. Even moving down to Los Angeles, Orange County, to even pursue what I did, it was a complete accident. Most of my life, I was gearing towards playing some sort of semi-professional ice hockey. That was pretty much. I had no shot of making it to the NHL. My chance was lost well into my journey into the project or into my process of wanting to play professionally, but it's all right. I wanted to still go off. I was into the world to try to play to some high level or make my way into sports to some degree. But pretty much my senior year of high school, I was in the process of talking to some team in Ontario, Canada, and playing right after high school. But I actually got injured in one of my games that I was playing, and I lost my opportunity to go to the scout combine for that team to make the team. So pretty much everything I had been building myself up towards was like lost at that point. I kind of felt like a lost cause. Didn't really know what else to do. I went into kind of a depression for probably 3 or 4 months, I would say. And then I had to really think, I had to look inward and really think about it and just be like, all right, what else do I like in life? What else do I like doing? Something I always have loved doing is making mixtapes for people. Listening to music, finding new music. That's always been a really big part of my identity and who I am. Some would call it a love language, so to speak. If I really care about someone, I'm going to make them a mixtape, So I was like, okay, wait, music's kind of cool. Let me think about this. And sure enough, what Brills was doing and when Twonk kind of formulated into what it was, the mission statement behind it really resonated with me. So a light bulb went off in my head literally in the middle of the night one night, and I literally just sent a message and was like, hey, I'm this kid from Cupertino, California. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I like what you're doing. If you ever need help with anything, I don't know what to ask for, but let me know. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, I heard back, and literally 2 weeks after high school, after I graduated, I moved down to Southern California, and the rest is history. I got really lucky.
Dude, I just want to highlight that part of the story because it's so fucking important. It's like just shooting your shot, creating your own opportunities, putting yourself out there. It's like you never know. And I truly think that the universe rewards you when it sees you being courageous. A lot of times we're kind of like waiting for things to happen. And it's like, you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta put yourself, go out on a limb and take those chances sometimes. Because, a big part of my story, I mean, literally like how I got hired at Capitol Records in the first place, but how I got specifically into the like EDM industry was, when I was working at Capitol Records and I was looking at what was happening across the street at Avalon, and the whole like dance music wave was just coming. It's like 2009, 2010, before shit was like what it was. And I knew 3 managers of DJs. It was, I think, who was it? One of them was David Guetta's manager. And I think it was Morgan Page's manager, and then this trance DJ, Christopher, what the fuck's his last name? Christopher something. But anyways, I was like, okay, I know 3 people in the industry, and I want to get into this world. This world is exciting. Like I want to be a part of this like dance music thing that's happening. And I know 3 people. So I just sent 3 emails, and it was the same thing. I was like, hey, like I just want to get involved. Like I just want to fucking get in, and the David Guetta's manager was the one that hit me back. She's like, hey, I think I might have something for you. And that just opened up, the doors for me. But how many times are we not sending that fucking email? Like that one message, that one DM. And I'm preaching this to my clients all the time, where it's, it's like, you just need that one artist to start playing your fucking song. But a lot of you all are too scared to send a fucking DM, right? Like, man, what if I don't want to seem annoying, or like, what if they, like, it's like there's all this fear of what people are going to think about you if you reach out. And it's like, yes, if that fear might be holding you back from the one life-changing opportunity that's going to completely launch your fucking career, dude. Right?
100%.
Yeah. So I'll get off my soapbox, but like if you're waiting to shoot your shot, whether that's like talking to the hot girl across the bar, or that's sending a DM to your favorite, that might be your future wife. Like, fucking shoot your shot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I have so many of my closest friends and colleagues who are so afraid to take those chances and those leaps. But and admittedly, for me too, I was a bit timid when I was younger. This was a huge step outside of my comfort zone, doing something like that. I thought I was going to get rejected. Everyone fears, shoot your shot like that. Like, you don't do it because you're worried about the negative, but you won't know unless you try. My favorite quote of all time, as cheesy as it is, but it's not at all. I live by it every day. Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I live by that very strongly. Ever since that happened, my life has changed for the better. Ever since I took that leap, I mean, I met you because of it,
Yeah.
I met amazing people like yourself. Thousands of other people.
Yeah, thousands of people.
Literally, if I didn't make that shot, wouldn't have happened.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, so I love it. So anyone that's sitting there, anyone that's teetering, like just do it. Just to steal another famous quote, just do it.
Just do it.
Now, all right, I want to really get into being a tour manager. What do you actually do? Let's break that down. This is an important member of the team that at some point people are probably going to want to have, but like, let's clarify what is it exactly that you do as a tour manager?
It depends on, there's a number of variables. If we're talking just in my concentration within electronic music, the term tour manager kind of stretches a bit. And I'll get into that a bit further down the line. But the general sense of what a tour manager is, in summary, is this is the person who is responsible for an artist's shows, like performances, appearances anywhere in the world. They're in charge of all logistics pertaining to the show and the team that surrounds that artist. So let's say, for example, I have a show at the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles. I am in charge of building the schedule for the show. I'm in charge of coordinating the team that comes to execute the show for the artist. Like, I have to manage a team of 5 different people, all the different positions that run the lights, the video, the sound. If there's any SFX, managing those types of people. This is on top of managing the artist and managing all the extra people that come alongside the artist that aren't necessarily part of the core touring crew. So, what could be 5 people that are actually running the show, I could end up looking after 15, whether that extends out to the photographers, the videographers, the managers that come alongside, the partners, the family. I look after all those people when it pertains to this one show. If we're bringing in a production manager, to run the show, generally speaking, tour managers don't really oversee the production side of things. All the non-technical things, the tour manager looks after, like making sure the dressing rooms are stocked with the correct items, food, drinks, miscellaneous items. I look after that. I'm also overseeing the budgets for the show. When there are bigger tours, if you're going on a bigger tour, sometimes you have what's called a tour accountant, and that person will look over the numbers, and it kind of shifts the duty a bit onto another person dedicated specifically for that. But on smaller tours where you don't necessarily have an accountant, that responsibility falls generally on the tour manager to look over that kind of thing.
What's that budget consist of?
When an artist gets booked, basically, they're given a guaranteed amount of money. They're given a certain dollar amount. And maybe in the contract, it's considered what's called a flat deal. Like, you don't get any additional provisions on the show. And what I mean by additional provisions, sometimes when an artist is booked, a promoter can agree with the artist's agent, the booking agent that books the show. They can say, okay, we'll give you, throwing out a random number, we'll give you $10,000 to play this show. But if you are able to sell tickets worth 90% of the show's capacity, so like if you can sell 90% of your tickets, after that point, we'll give you an additional $5,000. So if you can sell if you can get almost to a sellout, we'll give you $5,000 extra dollars. Or sometimes they're like, hey, if you sell out the show, we're going to give you double the amount of money, or something like that,
Yeah.
So I have to then take that max amount of number, calculate that versus the amount of expenses that the tour incurs, paying for the crew salaries, paying whatever the additional production elements would come into the show. Like, if we want to bring in, let's say, if, for example, at the Palladium, they have a bunch of lights already in-house. A lot of the times they'll also have a video wall that's already in there. But hey, let's say that my guy wants to bring in 10 to 20 more lights for whatever reason. The promoter's not paying for that. It's going to come out of our pocket, right? Because we want to do something extra. So whatever the cost of that is, I now have to put that into a line and subtract that from the total amount. And then that calculates how much we're earning for the show. So I have to kind of see what the gross income looks like, what the net income looks like. And of course, managers, agents, they all take a commission off of the show. So there's percentages that you have to calculate also. So it's my job leading up to the show to make sure that everything that we're spending on the show, when it comes to personnel, when it comes to production, when it comes to transportation, flights, hotels, everything that's baked in, I have to make sure that those numbers fall within a healthy range for my artist to be profitable, if that's the goal. You know, not every time though is a show profitable, or is it meant to be? But these are things I have to consider.
I like that you just said if it's meant to be, you know, because that was a really good conversation I had with Ben Hogan. Really, like, honestly, it's the number one performing podcast episode that I've put out so far. Ben Hogan is a booking agent for UTA, has worked with some of the biggest artists in the dance music industry, from Marshmello, Jaws, probably a lot of guys that you've worked with. I'm sure you've TM'd for some good guys on their roster, but that's a point that he made, specifically talking about Excision was one of the examples, or even Sudden Death. But it's like, they know going into the tour that they're like, yo, we're gonna, that $10,000 or that $20,000, we're basically gonna spend the whole thing on all this really cool extra shit. Slander's talked to me about this as well, where it's like, yo, we're going to spend that on making the show so fucking dope, right? And maybe this year, we're not really making money off of that tour, but we're building such a massive fan base because of how sick our shows are, that the year after and the year after that, we're really starting to make some real money, or we're starting to make a lot of money off of merch. We're starting to make money in these other areas because we're investing so much in our shows, whereas other artists aren't necessarily doing that. They're trying to be like, hey, how can we come away with the most money from this tour? And they're not bringing in those extra lasers and all that extra shit, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, looking over the financials is honestly such a very critical part of my job. Aside from that, too, some other small things that kind of come together. Anytime there's a meet and greet involved, or any sort of a VIP program that comes along with the show, I'm in charge of coordinating that whole thing along with our promoters and management team, but I help oversee to make sure that falls within the proper schedule of our show. So yeah, in essence, anything non-technical, anything non-production related to the show generally falls under my shoulders. But I oversee, in a nutshell, every aspect of a live performance for an artist. And that's from start to finish. I mean, I'm honestly not done working on a show sometimes, even for a week past the show's completion date, all while still doing whatever show I'm actively on. So it can be pretty hefty.
Yeah. When you say you're not done, like, what do you find yourself still working on? The show's over, but you say you're still even working on that show afterwards. What are you working on exactly?
Most of the time it's settlement for the show. And again, that kind of falls back onto the financial side of things, making sure that we're going to earn exactly the amount of money that we're supposed to. Because in essence, if we're making less money for some reason on the show than we were estimating, then I need to make an adjustment on sometimes even who I can bring to a future show, or production elements that I work on with a production manager, if I am working with one, if I can even bring some of these things into the fold for future shows. So generally speaking, it takes time to look at all the pieces that were invested into a show, and you can work on things all the way up to a week after.
I see. Yeah. So even in the middle of the tour, you might be looking at like, hey, maybe we didn't make as much money on that last show we thought we were going to. Now maybe we need to be cutting something from this future show, or maybe not bring in all the lasers that we were going to. I don't know why. I'm feeling very infatuated with the lasers right now. I'm curious about if somebody wants to bring in extra production, are they renting that? Like, let's say you have that $10,000 budget and you're like, hey, you know what? I want to bring in an extra, some extra production here. Would you source that from the city that you're going to, or would that potentially be something that you bring with you all on the tour? I guess that wouldn't make sense if you're doing fly-ins. That would only make sense on like a bus tour. But like, how does that work with like bringing in extra production?
It's a great question. There's multiple ways to go about it. Again, this kind of job does generally fall under a production manager's purview, source this kind of thing, but not every tour in electronic music anyway is, they're not profiting enough or sometimes the shows don't make it enough sense to bring on a formal production manager. So in a lot of the times, there is a kind of a gray area where the tour manager sometimes does have production manager responsibilities. Now, when it comes to bringing in the gear, a lot of the time you want to find local production. You want to find the gear that's based in that city, because a lot of the time you have to worry about trucking costs, flying them in from other places. That adds to the pile. What could be a $2,000 rental then becomes $2,900 because you had to ship them from somewhere else versus having them delivered locally. The promoters generally are not responsible for providing them unless it's agreed upon and written in the contract. That's drafted well in advance to you even getting to the show. So generally speaking, you should know when you're advancing the show in the time frame that you should be to do that. You should already know at that point who's responsible for bringing those in if it's contracted to do so. But generally speaking, even if you're on a fly day, it's totally normal to bring in lasers. Most major markets will have some sort of vendor that has inventory. It just all really depends on the time of the year, depends on how many you're trying to get. There's so many things that go into it. Like, do you want to have an operator come with them? Do you just want the units? Like, do you want them to be 10 watts versus 30 watts? Like, there's so many different types of things that go into it. Generally speaking, though, laser vendors, at least for me, my own personal opinion is I try to stick with the people that I care about the most. Relationships are everything to me in this business. Even if I'm in New York, for example, I might still want to work with my vendor that's based on the West Coast, because they'll always give me a good deal for what I'm looking for. Sometimes prices are inflated per city. They're not going to always cost the same anywhere you go. So there's so many different factors that go into it. But if you get the lucky instance of having the promoter cover it, fantastic. You just show up, flash and smash, you're out. Otherwise, you kind of have to do a little bit of digging and research to find the best price for your situation.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it is such an elevated level, I think, from what a lot of younger music producers and DJs think the game is about. Is like, oh, I just hop on a flight and I fly to the show and I show up and I plug my USB in and I play and then I don't. And at a certain level, that is true, like kind of in the beginning. But like once you start getting to that real next level, real like headliner level, it's like, okay, cool. No, we're throwing fucking shows now.
Yeah,
we're right. It's a different.
That's right.
It's just a different tier to reach, right?
Yes.
Who are you dialoguing with on a regular basis? Is it the manager and the booking agent? Is the artist pretty involved? Like, who are you actually like really in conversation with on a daily basis to pull all of this off?
I'd say it's about the way that I am structured. Everyone's situation, again, is very unique to their own situation. But for me, the way that it's done, just to make sure I'm being a good partner across everything, generally speaking, it's about 60% with the management team, 40% with the artist, or I should say, sorry, let me rephrase. 60% with the management team, 30% with the artist, 10% with the agent.
Okay.
That's about my spread of how I communicate. I find myself on a daily basis always in touch with the management team. The artists, if I need something specifically approved, at the end of the day, it's their decision. It's their project. They're the boss, Both the management company and myself, even though I'm a separate entity from the management companies that work with those artists, but we work together to deliver the same product.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, I'm finding myself talking to the management team more because we're in the trenches getting a lot of the hard work and all the hard pieces of the shows put together daily. And then the artists, that we give them the space to go create and, continue evolving the music, the art direction, just the general overall brand. They're the ones ideating a lot of that stuff. So I don't want to always bug them with the minute details of the shows unless they want it. Then I'll give it to them.
With the Excel spreadsheets of 30-watt lasers.
They don't need to see that all the time, Yeah, exactly.
Who are you working with these days?
It's exciting. I mean, I've had quite a wide range of clients over the past 12 years. It's pretty crazy to think about now at this point. But right now I have I think I have 6 active right now is the way it's looking, which is great. I started my own little touring collective a few years ago. So it's me. I have 3 other fantastic partners that I've found and collaborated with over the years. And now we have our own little pocket of a little touring community that we're a one-stop shop in service to many different artists all around the world. Right now, my main clients are NGHTMRE, who is, you mentioned Ben Hogan. He's a Ben Hogan client right there.
Yeah.
But NGHTMRE is my primary client. I've been with him now for 3 years, which is amazing. I do Peekaboo, and again, that 3 years with him, which is amazing too. North America only, I am doing Dimension, Subfocus, and Wilkinson. It's a new one as of recent, but I'm only doing North America logistics and touring for those 3. And then I am the tour director for Side Piece, House Music Project. What that entails is I don't normally go on the road with them. I have other people that go out for them, but I handle all the logistics overall. So there is another tour manager that goes out for me, but I still oversee and handle all the logistics, and I make the playbook for someone else to run.
I see. You have minions now that you just send out to do your work for you, while you get to kick back at the office and have a nice little, little night in. I see.
I would never want to call them minions.
Yeah.
But
I'm just kidding. I'm sure they're badass fucking road warriors.
they're incredible road warriors themselves too. But I'm very thankful to have them in the mix. But yeah, that's the spread right now. It's incredible, and surprisingly enough. It does sound like a lot. It is a lot, but I still have a life. I still find a way to make it all work.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because just before we were getting on, we were talking about how you just came off of a run of shows and are just catching up energetically from life on the road and from the physical demands of that. And I think that's a very real thing. We've talked about that a lot on the shows, especially with like the heavier touring artists. How do you maintain your physical health and energy when you're, on this like wild touring schedule?
I will tell you, it's very difficult. I mean, everyone's different. Again, I keep saying that, but that is the reality of it. It is a work in progress for me. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm trying very hard to find a balance. It's been one of my biggest things that I've been working towards over the past year. As of right now, I'm just trying to prioritize getting rest at home. When you're home during the week, that's the time where you're not having to leave a show at 2 or 3 in the morning and then have to get to the airport by like 6:30 to catch an 8 a.m. flight. This is the time where I'm not running myself absolutely just to the bone. I'm not running myself dry here, and this is time where I actually can regulate my bedtime, and I can regulate what I'm eating. It's very hard to eat on the road because a lot of the times you're in transit, you don't have time to think about it. You could have situations pop up left and right, but the second you have a moment to breathe, something else pops up, you got to go run away, and then you blink and it's 2 hours later and you've missed your window to eat. I think the biggest thing for myself during this time is Monday through Thursday, I have to stick to a routine. And if I don't, I'm going to burn out. And I've done it. Yeah. I've run into situations over the past 5 years where, especially after COVID happened, after the pandemic, the landscape changed of like just really taking care of yourself. If you don't take the time to really like strengthen your immune system and your physical health, and you're not doing things that just generally promote a healthy lifestyle and a healthy regimen ahead of time, you're just not going to be strong enough to go out on the road. If you get sick on the road and you can't go do these shows, you're not getting money. You can't get paid. If you don't get paid, you can't live. You gotta give yourself that insurance during the week, and you just have to stick to the schedule. It's pretty much black and white at this point. If you're not doing what you need to do during the week to take care of yourself, you're just in for a bad time.
Yeah, that was a big thing that I worked with Sippy on. She was the first client that I had that was like mid-headlining tour and had me in her corner, just specifically as a life coach, mindset coach. And that was the big thing that I remember telling her in the beginning. I was like, yo, like you're a fucking F1 car, right? Or like you get to decide what kind of car you are. Like you're in the race, right? Do you want to be a Honda Civic And do you want to treat yourself like that? Are you going to like get no sleep and just be putting fucking junk in your body, and not only physical energy, but like your mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy? You know, we have to take care of the vessel. And it's like, treat yourself like an F1 car. That was the theme that we really ran with. And it was like, all right, how do I keep my mindset really fucking sharp? She's coming back and doing, you know, red light therapy and hitting the gym and being like, okay, cool. We're going to take care of the body really good because we're back on the road on Thursday and we're going to be out till 4 a.m. every night. And when I come back, I also have to be creative, right? I also got to come back. And now I still need to make music Monday through Wednesday and have some fucking energy for that. So like so much of our work was just like, get fucking dialed in, because that lifestyle is fast and you're running a fucking F1 race, you know? And
yeah,
so,
no
like,
kidding.
If you want to, not only if you want to survive, but if you want a fucking podium and you want to win, you got to treat yourself like that. Right.
100%. I mean, it is just, at this point, as you get older, it doesn't get easier either. You know, I'm 30 right now. I'm turning 31 this year. I'm very, very fortunate to have the position that I do at this age. I have colleagues that are tour managers, you know, younger than me, older than me, but a lot of the people I learned from are older than me, you know?
Yeah.
And they've all told me the same thing. It's pretty much just take care of yourself. The older you get, the harder it is to recover, you know? But if you're in good shape and you can really do what you can to mitigate those long nights during the week, you know, and not have to feel like you're playing catch up for 2 to 3 days, it's all the work you do right now, like today. You know?
Yeah. And I share that same sentiment for artists that aren't even touring yet. It's like, don't wait till you start touring to put the healthy habits in place. Get those healthy habits dialed in now, right? Start really taking care of your vessel, right? Your mind, your body, and your spirit. Start like really priming that now so that when you do go on the road, like you're ready for it. Right? Act as if you're about to blow the fuck up and be the biggest internationally touring DJ in the world, right? Act as 100%. If that. And when that time comes, you're going to be ready for it, because we do see it sometimes too, where like people aren't ready for it. And it's a real bitch slap to the face. We're like, oh wow, like this is actually hard. And you know, we see it all the time with artists. That's like, yeah, you just kind of party your way through it for a little while and be like, all right, let's just kind of, you know, use that social lubricant and all of that, but it's going to catch up with you. It doesn't last very long for anybody.
No, it does not. It does not. The other best way to mitigate, you know, even when you're on the road on the weekends, it doesn't have to just stop during the week. On the weekends, you know, if you get to a point where you're able to ask for a hospitality rider that's substantial, you know, opting out of sweets or unhealthy food and adding in like a veggie tray or a fruit tray or cold pressed juice, you know, like thankfully I'm working with people now that care about their well-being. So it doesn't have to just end during the week. You know, like I said, it's so hard to eat when you're on the road. So if you can request healthy snacks or meals when you're at the venues, absolutely take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm trying to put myself in your shoes of managing so much stuff. It sounds honestly stressful as fuck. I don't think I would be cut out for it. I am not the most like organized logistical person. You have to have the energetic capacity to hold a lot, not only with all the, you know, the logistics and the spreadsheets and the finances, but also all of the people and the relationships. And, you know, I've been on the road. I was a manager. I did a little would go out with the artists every now and then, a little bit of tour managing. Yeah, there's a lot of personality. There can be a lot of ego. There can be a lot of unforeseen things that just pop up, fires to put out, right? It can be fucking stressful. How do you handle the stress?
It's a great question. I think the best way to do it, the stress, is always have a plan, always have a backup plan, always think about how, like, and something, I don't think everyone's built the same way when it comes with knowing how to manage expectations or managing personalities or figuring that out. Because at the end of the day, too, another unwritten job title that does come up with tour managers is you're kind of almost, in a sense, you're kind of like an adult babysitter in some way. At least in electronic music, I can say that. Other genres, not so much. You know, it's pretty black and white with responsibility, and there's less tolerance for a lot of this stuff. But at least in our industry, how it's evolved over time, you know, like within the electronic space, I find myself having to manage people's, you know, feelings a lot of the time too, because ultimately, someone doesn't feel good, they're just going to quit. And then I have to go find someone else. And in these days too, it's hard to find good people to do a lot of these jobs. There are a lot of very qualified operators and technicians all across the US, all across the world. But to get someone so specific for your specific artist and team, you got to really be lucky to find that one person. I'm very fortunate to find those people. But what comes with it though, for me, managing stress specifically, I just have very specific timelines for managing my own expectation. Like, I can only withstand something for so long before I have to keep moving on a certain thing. And I'm always faced with split-second decisions. It is very situational, but a lot of the time, if something's not moving quick enough, I have to know how to pivot or make the best decision, even if it's not a good one. I have to know how to make the best decision to minimize the impact to the artist or the team as a whole. Or in general, at the end, like for me, when I need to just like have an escape from all the shit that's happening, I usually bring a second monitor with me. Most venues will have this too. They'll have like a production office or a touring or tour office that's separate from the green room. I'll usually set myself up in one of these quiet rooms. So if I need a place to just escape from the madness, I have a place to go. And I'll set up my second monitor and I'll watch some hockey. And that's what I do. And even if I can't sit and watch it for too long, I'll sit down, I'll take 10, 15 minutes, open up my laptop, I'll have my work on my main computer, and then off to the side on my other monitor, I have a hockey game. And it just brings me down. And that's how I manage mine. And once I get like a little bit of an escape from what I'm dealing with, because it's such high intensity sensory overload at a lot of these events, I need something that is familiar and calming to me. So that is what I do in those instances, especially again, when it comes to dealing with, let's say the crew's tired and everyone's tired and feeling beat up and, tensions are high. It doesn't happen all the time, thankfully, with the teams I'm on. I work with some pretty incredible people. I'm very fortunate. But, if you need a little escape, it's good to have a backup plan or a place you can go retreat to for a few just to reset. But I try really hard to not let myself get too reactive to a situation. I like to take a moment, take a deep breath, take a step back, look at everything from the top down, and make a decision from there. But it took a long time for me to get to that point. I've trudged through the mud. I've been in situations early on in my career where I can't necessarily do that right then and there. But I'm very fortunate that I learned some pretty good stress management techniques from a very young age, and I just applied it to where I'm at now.
Yeah. You've put some miles in. It definitely sounds like something that comes with just time and experience. But I love that suggestion of having kind of a safe space that you can turn to just to get out of the madness. I mean, that's actually something I even worked with Sippy on as well, where as an artist, you're in the green room and everybody's in there and it's a big party, but sometimes that's not the best headspace for an artist to be in. And that was something that like I had her start doing. It's like, hey, step outside and go out and find a little corner to just like get calm and get centered.
Exactly.
And so that when you go on stage, you're not just going from like 1 second, having a conversation with somebody. It's like have a little 5-minute window to like prepare yourself for delivering the best set possible. So, we started creating that for her as well, which, was really, really effective for sure.
I think having that breathing room is so critical. Taking 5 to 10 minutes for yourself, it's not going to change the show if you're not there for 5 to 10 minutes,
Yeah. I'll see you afterwards.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this before we started recording, but there is that very, very true reality about the heightened dopamine, serotonin release, the wild show, the explosion of energy that you experience playing the show. And then for a lot of people, it's like, okay, well, now you're either back at the hotel by yourself that night and you just went from playing in front of thousands of people to now being completely alone, or the weekend's over and now, 1 minute you're the fucking king of the world on stage or the queen of the world on stage and everybody is chanting your name, and now you're back in your apartment on Tuesday taking out the fucking trash by yourself And it can be a bit of a head fuck, right? That roller coaster. What's that experience like for you, and how do you find yourself navigating the highs and the lows of being on the road and being off?
It's hard. You said it perfectly. You could be in this incredible environment, come off an amazing show. You just worked 18 to 20 hours putting this spectacle together. Energy's high. Artists are happy. Everyone's cheering, screaming. The sound of the crowd, the team coming together at the end of the show, being like, "That was amazing. I can't wait for it." Like just the thrill of traveling, and all the pieces that come together with that. It brings you to such a heightened sense of self, when you're doing that. And so to come back after being in such a high energy environment to just a baseline place, and it's just quiet and there's nothing happening around you, and it's just you, and you can just hear the wind or whatnot. Going from 100 to 0 is very jarring sometimes. Thankfully for me, from such a young age, I've been able to adapt to any environment just from what I'm used to. But for me, I usually take Monday to be by myself, to come down from everything. Tuesday, I'll go out and try to see someone, or like go out to dinner with somebody to let a little bit out of my energy level again from what I've had written over from the weekend. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I'll usually lock back into the work and prep for the weekend again. But having something to look forward to and like some sort of hobby, this is such a general recommendation that I'm sure a lot of people have. Like, having something at home to look forward to kind of just helps you keep the momentum of the energy that you're experiencing, and it helps you just place it into something a little bit more tangible and easy to digest. Because I think constantly being on the road and constantly touring can definitely mess with you. But coming off such a high energy activity and then bringing it into a different vertical or whole different activity, I think is extremely healthy. I think that's what keeps you from, getting too depressed or feeling like you're missing out on a big dopamine hit. You can take that energy and put it into something else that's also exciting in your life.
Totally. Yeah. It sounds like you kind of have your weekends on Monday and Tuesday. So still having a little bit of a weekend for yourself, right? Like you're in full work mode during the kind of normal person's weekend. So you get to have a little bit of space, a little bit of recovery for you, like most people do. And I think that piece of having some real life hobby or just something to put your time and your energy into, that I'd say for artists also isn't music production, isn't just getting back in the DAW and working on music. And, maybe some people are just obsessed with it and addicted to it. And that's great if that's what they want to do. But I really, really advocate that for people as well. Artists specifically, it's like, I gotta, go play fucking pickleball or go skateboarding and just do something that's going to actually get you, just to go be a normal person for even one day out of the week. Cause you're not a normal person the other fucking 6 days, you're not living a normal life, but a little bit of like normalcy in there, I think can go a long way.
I think so too. I mean, literally, sense of community and friends are everything. I mean, for me, like, I'm just a naturally extroverted person. I think over time I've digressed a bit on that just because I'm always around people constantly. I do value my alone time, but I also do, I kind of teeter the line these days. Some people might just want to be alone for a whole week before going back out, and that's fine. For me, paying mind to your friendships and your family or loved ones, finding time to balance that and having those things to look forward to will only help strengthen your mind to be sharper when you're going out on a show, when those things are also intact. Because it's very, very easy. The further you get down into this space and the more you do progress in your career in music or entertainment as a whole, it's really easy for your personal life to kind of take the back burner. Speaking from experience, I've lost many friends, relationships. I've tarnished relationships with my own family just from doing this job and, making sure that you pay attention to those things as well. And you're putting as much energy into that side of your life on top of your professional life is extremely important. And something, honestly, I wish I did more of as I was growing in this space. But I don't regret anything. I'm very happy with where I'm at now. It took a long time to get to where I'm at now, but I think more than ever, the balance is just so important now that I feel like I'm at a place where I'm sustaining a living because of it,
Yeah. I was literally just talking to my girlfriend about this earlier today, where it's like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And you really have to make sure that your own cup is full. You really have to make sure that you're good, especially when you are the artist, you are the entire business. You're the one that's creating the music. You're the one that's getting on the plane and flying. It's like you really have to prioritize your own fulfillment, your own happiness, your own health. If you're pouring so much out, at some point you're going to become tapped. And it is those things like having a healthy relationship with your family, having a good relationship with your friends, taking care of your body, having some activities that just bring you joy that aren't just work. That's the stuff that fills our cup. And it's so easy to lose sight of that, though. It's so easy to, just be so focused on the goal. But yeah, at some point, the well is going to run dry and there's not going to be a lot to really pull from, So yeah, really, really, really good advice.
Again, it kind of plays back into the whole thing of like, as you keep getting older too, it's harder to maintain. Everyone in your personal life gets busy, making friends can also sometimes be a harder thing for some people, as you get older, especially if you travel so much, people aren't going to know when you're available or free. So you kind of have to go take the extra step to really go foster those relationships when you're back home in the short amount of time you have, and I know sometimes a lot of people are really tired after they just traveled for 2 to 3 days. You're coming back from an international trip or you're coming back from 2 days of no sleep and all you want to do is just relax. And, it's good it's important to do that, but also make sure, again, that plays into the part of if you take care of yourself during the week, those recovery times, are going to be minimized. So you can go back out and really nurture and foster those relationships that are important to you as well.
Yeah. For sure. So you've been in the industry for a long time. I've been in the industry for a long time. I'll speak for myself. I think after going to so many shows and being at so many festivals, and it's like, for sure in the beginning of my career, it was like, oh my God, this is so rad. Like getting to go to backstage at all these shows and all of it. At some point for me, it was also kind of like, damn, like, all right, I've kind of seen this and I've done this for a minute, and it definitely like lost the allure and became work, like the dream and the thing that was like the fucking passion. It does become work after a while. I think I think artists run into this too. It's like, that's the dream, is the tour. And at some point it's like that, it's kind of the day job. Do you feel like you've hit those phases as well, where it's like, all right, this is becoming more work than play, I guess? What's your experience been with that?
Yes. The short answer is yes, it has for me, but there's a way for me to keep my spark. I honestly think that at the end of the day, everyone loves what they're doing, if they do to some degree. And if they don't admit it to you, they're lying to you. Because if they don't like what they're doing, they wouldn't be here, and they think they'd go pursue something else at this point, Yeah. Yes. At some point, the veil is lifted, per se. At some point, what was once a very exciting opportunity to be backstage or see everything from the front looking out, at one point that was super exciting and literally filled my cup more than anything else could, And now it is a job to me. It is that. However, with electronic music specifically, I love it flat out. I mean, I've been involved in this community from a very young age. I was pirating music when I was in elementary school. I was seeking into raves when I was in middle school and high school. I mean, it has been such an integral part of my life. I've honestly, I feel like the soundtrack to my life, I could pick any electronic music song and I'd have something for every instance. For me, it takes a very specific kind of artist or show for me to get excited these days, admittedly. However, I seek those out. In my spare time, there's very specific shows that I will go to, and I'll go in the crowd and I will have just as much of a fun time as I did as if I was 16, 17, 18 years old again. I mean, there's very specific kinds of shows that will make me feel excited again. And I think those get me invigorated, and that in turn allows me to not feel jaded doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that right there, that was when I had my first moment of, I guess kind of getting over it, where I was like, damn, like I've been to Control so many fucking times, it's like, been to the club so many times or the shows. But what I realized, that was exactly it, was like, oh, I need to get back in the fucking crowd. It was like, that's why I fell in love with this in the first place. It was like, okay, I'm going to have a night out where like I'm going to literally leave my phone in the car and I'm going to get on the dance floor. I'm going to shake my goddamn ass like nobody's watching and just lose myself and have fun and really go see an artist that I really, really love. You know, like we have Eric Prydz coming to town in a couple weeks. I'm like, I'm going to fucking Prydz and I'm going ham. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be just GA, like getting down, having fun. And we need those. I think artists need those as well. I think every artist had that experience of being at a festival and having their mind blown. And, you know, like, yeah, you got to remember why you started this shit in the first place. And as you said, like really keep that spark alive.
It's super important. I mean, if I wasn't doing that, I think it'd be much harder for me to find enjoyment, I think, at this point. I mean, but everyone has a different goal. Like some people are in this just because it is just a job to them, and that's fine. You know, those people can exist too. But for me, I can speak for myself. Like, I mean, I think it's incredible that we have the opportunity to even be in this space. It's a very grueling, demanding space to work in entertainment as a whole, specifically electronic music. It's such a niche field, you know, to land an exciting career in this environment. But I think for what it's worth, you know, the fact that I can even have time to go find these kinds of shows in between the madness of what I have, like I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to do it. And sometimes even, you know, what I'll do to maintain my level of excitement as well is, you know, a lot of the clients that I'm on or that I work with now, thankfully, you know, we tour all over the world collectively, and you know, when I get a chance to go to a festival, my first thing is to always look at the lineup of who's playing. And I will try, if I have the ability to, I will always try to go early. And I will always try to go into the crowd and watch at least one set. And even if I'm just standing there, just enjoying it, even if I'm just standing there, just taking it in, if it's not like my favorite thing in the world, it does give me energy, you know?
Yeah.
I just like seeing what's going on. I like seeing people innovate. I like seeing what other people are doing because it also gives me inspiration to keep finding new, unique ways to elevate my own career and my own clients' careers. So yeah, I like getting myself out in the field, and I like walking around. I like I like feeling the energy of all the patrons. I like seeing all the activations at the shows. It just I like learning. I'm always learning while doing this job, and I feel like being able to travel and experience these kinds of shows and go into all these things just keeps me excited and always learning to reapply into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing that I've always loved about you is that you have a spark and you have an infectious personality that's really, really nice to be around, you know? I think that is such a huge superpower. And, you know, I'm sure it's played a huge role in helping you get as far into this industry as you have. There really is something to be said for that. And, yeah, man, it's like keeping your own spark lit, you know, just like being a positive person that is excited about what they're doing and is grounded also in gratitude, you know, recognizing how lucky we are to be able to do this, to have had careers in this industry. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like I said in the beginning of the call, like you're one of my favorite people in the music industry. You know, there are a lot of people out there that have really big egos, and it's not necessarily the funnest people to be around, right? No. But like you're one of those people that are just like, dude, this guy's fucking rock solid, total amazing, badass, and I'm just super honored, honestly, that you were down to come on the podcast today and share some wisdom with us.
The feeling is mutual, man. I mean, I really appreciate the words. I mean, I've always valued, you know, the insight and like excitement that you also have for the space too. I mean, you've been a part of this community for like, I mean, you told me just now, you've been a part of it longer than I've even been around doing it. Before I even knew that I wanted to be a part of it, you were already involved with it, you know, and the fact that you've met so many people across the time doing this and have watched people come and go in this business, and you can still say that, for me, that means a lot. So I really appreciate that.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, thanks again for taking the time to hop on. Really, really excited to share this with everybody, and I'm sure I will catch you soon as you are traveling around.
Oh, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait for that moment, man. Thank you so much for having me.